Welcome back to Trying to Figure It Out. You guys, we are in a different location today. I've really been tapping into therapy. I haven't been in therapy in maybe 3 years, which is kind of wild because I'm out here preaching to everybody about therapy and how important it is, but I have not personally been going to therapy because I just haven't had the time. I haven't really felt motivated to do it. I haven't really felt like I'm committed to it. And I think it's so important to be committed to therapy when you do it. Otherwise, you don't get anything out of it. And that's what inspired me to make this episode. So I called my producer, asked her to come over, and we're just taping an episode for you guys here on my therapy couch. Do's and don'ts of therapy. As someone who's done therapy since they were 7 years old, I've seen every different type of therapist you could possibly think of. I've tried so many different modalities. The world has changed so much where we accept therapy and we are advocates for therapy and we really want people to go to therapy. And so I want to give you guys my do's and don'ts of therapy and tell you the things that I've learned over the years of how to actually get something out of it. When I started therapy as a little kid, I went to therapy because I was forced to. My parents got divorced, and I feel like the classic response that parents have when they get divorced is like, let's send our kids to therapy just to make sure that they're okay. But that kind of therapy was really unique and really interesting because I was so young that I didn't even really understand what it was. I probably thought I was having like a play date with an older woman, like who knows what I was thinking I was doing. But it's interesting because in that space, looking back now, it wasn't really a safe space for me because my therapist was reporting back to my parents. Everything I was sharing with them, everything I was doing, I was kind of just being studied so that my parents could have some peace of mind that I was okay. That kind of therapy was helpful. Looking back, I do think I found a lot of peace in my therapist and I grew with her over time. It was the same therapist for a very long time that I saw. She kind of grew up with me. And as I got older, I felt more confidence that I could trust her more. And as I got older, I was able to express myself better and express to her, hey, I don't want you to tell my mom this. Hey, I don't want you to tell my dad this. So can this be our safe space? And I think I was able to, as time went on, really make it my safe space, but it definitely took time. So that was a unique therapy experience that I think almost doesn't really count until I was able to express myself better. I worked with that therapist until I was probably 16, and she was great. Her name was Julie. Love Julie. Shout out to Julie. Sitting in her cold, weird, dark office just didn't work for me. And I remember one day I went to therapy with her and I asked her, can we go for a walk today instead of sitting in here? And it became our tradition where every Tuesday when I had therapy after school, me and Julie would go for a walk from the Mount Kisco office where she worked, and we'd walk all the way down to this really cute bakery. We would get a brownie, we would eat brownies together, and then we would walk back to her office. We would talk about what was going on in school, what boys I was liking, how I was feeling about liking boys, how I was feeling about my friendships, how I was feeling about my mom and my dad, and all the different things going on in my life. And so that brings me to my first do, which is make therapy work for you. Find a therapist that makes you comfortable. Find a therapist that you can really express yourself with. Allow the space where you do therapy to be a space that works for you. If you feel like you'd rather do a virtual appointment, do a virtual appointment so you can be in your bed laying down in your comfort space or in your kitchen or multitasking. Some people, like me, for example, in my therapy session that I just recently had, I was cleaning around my house while talking to my therapist, and he was kind of just sitting there like, what the fuck is going on? What is this girl doing? Like, I'm literally like going to the laundry room, I'm going to the kitchen, I'm moving things around. But for me, I was just able to share so much with him because my brain was almost in autopilot and I didn't feel like I was forced to sit and stare at someone. Sometimes you get this feeling where you're just dumping on somebody and you're staring face to face with them and they're just kind of so neutral, which is kind of how they have to be. Finding a way to put your brain on autopilot and not be so consumed by the fact that that's just another random person listening to your story. Find a way that works for you. This is just what works for me. So that's my first do of therapy, is do it in a way that works for you, whether it's in bed, in an office, multitasking, whatever it is. And a good therapist will understand and will not question what you're doing as long as you're showing up and giving them what they need to help you. Okay. Another thing that I have learned in my therapy journey is graduating from therapists. I graduated from Julie. high school started getting crazy. I was focusing on trying to get into college. I didn't have time for therapy anymore, and I didn't have a space for it. And sometimes when you force yourself to go to therapy when you don't feel like you're in the mindset to do it, you're not going to get anything out of it. So I stopped seeing Julie when I was 16. I felt like I had enough tools gathered from my years with Julie that I didn't really need to have a therapist when I was in college. I felt like I was okay. Navigating therapy is your journey. Taking breaks, graduating from people, moving on to a new therapist, realizing, okay, I've fixed those problems. Here are my new problems. So after college, the pandemic happened. And obviously, all of us needed therapy during the pandemic. Let's be honest, we all were struggling a little bit extra. And I actually did go back to Julie during the pandemic. So at this point, I was 22 years old. I was at home in quarantine, really needing somebody to talk to, just feeling like I needed an outlet to cope with the anxiety of what was happening in the world. And that was the first time that I ever realized that I needed a psychiatrist. This was the first graduation for me of therapy. I had never thought of seeing a psychiatrist before. I had never considered medication. I had always done true psychoanalytic therapy. There's a lot of different modalities in therapy. The therapy that I did with Julie was talk therapy. I would tell her how I was feeling. She would provide a space of comfort. She would give me ideas. She would give me advice. She would give me homework. She would tell me things to journal. She would try to help me cope with my anxiety. Her biggest thing that she helped me with throughout my childhood was coping. She taught me so many tools on how to cope with anxiety. We had this book. It was called The Coping Cat. I promise you, this book changed my life. It is a guided journal, basically, and it is for kids, but you don't realize how much it can help you even if you're not a kid. So that was what Julie did for me, was coping. Then when I started seeing my psychiatrist, that was when he said to me, you need to be on medication. It's not a question to me. You are suffering with anxiety. You're suffering in a way that your brain doesn't have the ability to work past these things. There's only so much you can do to challenge yourself. You have a chemical imbalance in your brain. I had been in therapy for so many years before even considering medication. So for me, medication didn't feel like a rash decision. I did the work. I reached a dead end. So for me, I knew that it was time for me to try something different. So after spending time with my new psychiatrist, I went on Lexapro. And that was when he also told me that I needed to start seeing a therapist who could focus on cognitive behavioral therapy. And that was when I graduated to a new modality. So I moved on to doing CBT, which was so hard. You're telling somebody all the things that you feel like you can't do, and they're telling you to expose yourself to those things. They're basically saying, jump in a pool of discomfort and sit in it and challenge yourself to do that so that you can see that everything will be okay if you do it. At the time, I was dealing with serious panic, OCD, anxiety. For me, it was, little things of asking everybody if they were going to be okay every 5 minutes, wondering if my grandma was going to die, wondering if something bad was going to happen, just constant crippling anxiety. I would literally not leave my house because I was afraid if I left my house, something would happen to my grandma in the time that I was gone. And if I was gone and I wasn't there and something happened to her, like, what would I do? And so I was catastrophizing everything in my life. I was 22 years old and I was living at home with my grandma. And I couldn't get myself to move back to LA. I couldn't get myself to even consider leaving her because I didn't want her to be alone. I was stopping myself from living my life. I think that CBT is the best therapy to do when you start taking medication. I don't think it's a very easy therapy to do if you're not taking medication. And that's just what my reality was. But to challenge yourself, to expose yourself to your greatest fears without help from medication or getting your brain to a baseline is really, really freaking hard to do. So graduating from therapy and therapists is so important. Don't get too stuck on a therapist and be open to graduating from therapists. Another do for therapy is write down every single thing throughout the week that you think of that you might need to talk to your therapist about. All week long, I'm crashing out. I'm having mental breakdowns left and right. I'm going through it and then I forget about all of that. And I sit down with my therapist and I'm like, yeah, I had a good day. I just ate some lunch. I feel good today. No, please write down throughout the week the things that you're going through so that you're ready for your therapy session. It will save you. And with that being said, this is my biggest therapy tip. Do not lie to your therapist. I can't even tell you guys how many times I've lied to my therapist. We all do it. So after I mastered the CBT side of therapy and really was in a good swing with my Lexapro, I took another therapy break. I was good with the medication. I felt like I had worked through enough and I was good to kind of just coast for a while. So I took another probably 1.5 to 2 year break from therapy. Then enters 2022. This was my trauma phase of life. I was in a completely different mental state than I had ever been before, and I needed a therapist who could just make me feel safe. That was what I was looking for in that time. I found an amazing therapist. Her name was Tara. She really saved me. Her style of therapy was so unique and so different because it was the first time I ever went to therapy where she actually would talk as well. She would tell me about her stories. She would share her personality and her experience. And in the state that I was in, it made me feel so much less alone. Sometimes you speak to a therapist and it's just this person, you know nothing about them. You're basically assuming they have it all figured out because you're talking to them. They're the ones giving you advice. You're paying them. They're professionals. Like, what struggles do they have? But she was different. She talked to me about her struggles and she talked to me about her experience with trauma and chronic illness and the things that she had been going through. And in that moment, it just made me feel so safe. It felt like conversational therapy with someone who had gone through some of the things that I had gone through. And I felt so seen and heard. And it was just like a conversation with a friend. And I needed that so much in that moment. And she just saved me in a time that I needed to be saved. The biggest don't I have for therapy is a lesson that I learned from Tara. Tara would call me out on my bullshit. I lied to Tara about everything, and she saw right through it. First off, I literally didn't even have the opportunity to lie to her about what was going on in my life because I would just lie to her about why I didn't want to show up to therapy in the first place. I would tell her I'm sick, I have a fever, and Tara would text me back so gently, which I love her for. She would say, I know you don't have a fever. I know this is too hard for you today. It's okay. The only reason I care is because it's your money that you're losing when you cancel on me last minute. That was the only thing she would ever say to me. And she would call me out, check me a little bit, and she'd be like, but we still don't have to meet today. But just know that I know you don't have a fever. And in the moment, I would always be like, fuck, she really got me there. And she was right. I was fully lying to her. And so this is like a minuscule example of lying to your therapist. Don't lie to them. They're going to catch on to you, especially a good therapist who really knows you. But a bigger example of lying to your therapist, and it's something I've done in my life for years. When I was seeing Julie way back when, during the pandemic, I was in a relationship that was terrible. It was a bad relationship. I knew I needed to get out of it. I knew I shouldn't be dating the person. And I would spend my therapy sessions with Julie telling her how much I loved my boyfriend, telling her how great he was, only sharing the good. I would be like, he did this for me and we're going to this place and we're traveling and he's getting so much better. Like, he's really working on the things that I've asked him to work on. I was lying. I was always lying. We all do this. If you're seeing a therapist to help you get out of a relationship and then you're lying to your therapist about what the relationship is, your therapist isn't going to know what to tell you. Maybe they'll see through it because they know you well enough that they're able to be like, I know that this is not the case. Or maybe you're overselling it and you're going too far with saying how great everything is. And maybe they can kind of just see past it because it's almost so obvious that you're lying to them. But therapy, you get out of it what you put into it. That's just the truth. You're never going to get anything out of therapy that you don't give yourself. Therapy, the work is equally on you as it is the therapist. So if you're going into it and you're going to lie to them and you're not going to tell them the truth of what's really happening in your life, they're not going to help you. They're going to go off of what you give them. And if you're giving them a lie, especially, you're just not going to benefit from it. So please don't lie to your therapist. And if you're planning to lie to your therapist, maybe you're not ready for therapy. So after working with Tara for a while, I kind of, again, fell back off of therapy, needed a break. I took a couple years off, and I want to tell you guys where I am now. 2025. I am now on Prozac. I just got a new psychiatrist. I am using my psychiatrist also as my therapist, which is the first time I've ever done that before, but he does both, and I'm down for that because it's one less person I have to share my story with. As we're recording this, I'm on week 3 of working with him. I have not canceled a session yet. Very proud of myself for that. Accountability is in lock. I started Prozac. I am not feeling it yet, but I know that I will be feeling it soon. And the reason why I am back in therapy and what pushed me to be in this place is I feel like I've worked through so many things in my life. I've gone through my parents' divorce. I've gone through the trials and tribulations of being in college and going through a pandemic and having a brain tumor and having a traumatic experience happen to me and all these different things. But now I'm in a place where I really am steady. I'm really just living life now. I don't feel traumatized anymore, even though I know it's still there. I don't feel like I'm depressed or in an active state of depression, even though I know I struggle with depression. I do feel like I have a lot of active anxiety. That is definitely something I actively feel is anxious. I feel a little bit numb. I feel like the noise in my head is just too loud. And this is kind of something I've never felt before because nothing's wrong. I'm in a good relationship. I'm doing well in my career. I'm doing my podcast, which I love. Everything feels like it's falling into place, but I internally wake up some mornings and I'm like, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel down? Why do I feel this weight on my chest? But there's nothing wrong. I do have chemical imbalances in my brain. That's just me. That's my journey, and I'm sharing that with you. Everybody is different. But for me, I'm reminded by the fact that I struggle with anxiety. I struggle with depression. I struggle with these things, and I don't want to live this way anymore. I don't want to suffer. I don't want to feel numb. I don't want to feel avoidant. I don't want to feel this overall sense of unwillingness to find help. I said to my therapist actually this week, I said to him, I want to get back to myself. And then I backtracked for a second. I was like, I actually don't know what that means because I don't know what self I want to get back to. I don't want to get back to myself in 2022 where I was struggling with PTSD. I don't want to get back to myself in 2016 where I was struggling with panic disorder and anxiety and all these different things. I just want to find a place now that works for me. So I don't necessarily know that I want to get back to myself, but I think I more so just want to find myself and find a way to live comfortably after a long life of living in a lot of discomfort. I'm seeking comfort right now, and I'm hoping that the Prozac along with the therapy helps. And that's my one other tip. Before I sign off, I want to tell you guys, if you choose to go the route of medication, do not just take medication. Medication is 50% of the journey. You have to do the work too. The medication's not going to fix you. It's you and the medication in it together with a therapist, with somebody to guide you through the journey. The medication is not, don't use it as a Band-Aid. Don't allow it to be a Band-Aid. You have to do the work to get the benefits out of it. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for failure, truly. So if you're thinking of starting medication, if you're on medication, please trust me. It is so important while you're on it to also be talking to somebody and really allowing yourself to pick your brain apart and understand your brain while taking this medication. It will allow you to understand yourself so much better. Now, you guys know my entire journey of therapy. We really went through all the things. I hope that this episode is helpful. It's so interesting because now that I'm back in therapy in such a different way than I've ever been in before, I really feel like I have so many tips of how to actually get something out of therapy. And if you're looking for help or trying to figure out what you might need, just start by going online. Honestly, ChatGPT, you guys, this is crazy, but ChatGPT can help you find a really great therapist. Tell ChatGPT how you're feeling. Go through the thoughts with them and let them recommend what kind of therapy you might need. Let them recommend who to reach out to. You can tell them where you live and they can recommend real people to you. They can do all the research for you. Another tip for finding a good therapist is talk to your friends. I asked my friend I told her, I was like, I'm really going through it. The noise is too loud. I need someone to help me quiet the noise, but I don't know who to go to. I like kind of feel lazy about it. I don't want to do all the research. I don't want to go on ChatGPT. I don't want to talk about it. I just want somebody. Can you just help me out? And she sent me her psychiatrist number. And now I have a psychiatrist and I'm really liking him. We're really grooving. We've gone through all the background. So there's so many ways you can find it. It is 2025. The resources are everywhere. There are apps. There are so many ways in which you can find a good therapist. Take the leap, take the step. I promise you, you won't regret it. And there are so many tools out there to help you find the right person. Be consistent, be patient. Help is there and it will come with time. I love you guys. Thanks for listening. Spontaneous solo episode. We love a little spontaneous moment. I love you guys and I'll see you next week on Trying to Figure It Out. This episode of Trying to Figure It Out is brought to you by the Hacienda Village Meat and Italian Deli. You guys, I love my meats, okay? I am an Italian to my core. I grew up in New York with a Long Island Italian family. There is nothing I know more about than a good Italian deli. And since living in LA, I have not found one of those until I found the Hacienda Village Meat and Italian Deli. You guys, not only do they have the best owners and the nicest staff, but the meats are insane. I know my sausages. I know my salamis. I know a good sandwich when I see one. And let me tell you guys, the quality is 10 out of 10. It is so good. I couldn't recommend it more. So if you live in the Southern California area or you're coming to Los Angeles anytime soon, please, please, please make your way over to the Hacienda Village Meat and Italian Deli. I promise you won't regret it.